Okay, what you're about to hear today is a very important one because we're close to the year 2012, and that's when there's a lot of shifting of consciousness. So again, if you'll pay close attention, there's a method in which every question you ask will be answered through an experience rather than words. As you know, I answer emails every day from around the world, you know, sometimes up to 100 every morning. And I'm pretty dedicated to this because I've seen the results. And I've been doing it now for, a few years. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is that what is a question and what is an answer? See, a question cannot be helped because a question comes from the word quest, to seek, to want to know, to understand. It is the nature of the human to seek. And you'll never stop seeking until you discover what? That you are a human being. The being is not the answer, it is the resolution. It is the solution. And today we're going to put it into practical use today. You'll see a little while. So if you pay attention, it will be made very clear. So the questioning goes into many different levels. The human is more or less a question, it's a seeking. But what it is seeking, and it doesn't know, it's seeking itself, the being. You see, the being is perfect. The being is unconditional love. Did you know that? The being is total unconditional love. So, but it takes quite a while to discover it, and we'll see why in a little while. So you are a human being, which is a being playing the human role. But until we discover that, you'll always be lost, feeling as if there's something wrong, I am missing something, and you know, maybe I'm not good enough, etc., etc. That is part of the thing because we haven't integrated the human and the being as one. And until we do, there'll always be feeling something is missing or I am not good enough type of feeling. Now, the being is all we ever want. But what I'd like to stress today, it is not the answer, it is the solution. You see, there are no answers. Now you might say, but Burt, you're answering people all the time, you're replying to people. Yes, they are pointers, but it's not the truth. Words are not the truth. What you read in a book is not the truth. That doesn't mean they're not talking about the truth. But it isn't the truth because the truth is an experience. It is a being. It is not intellectual. It is the heart. You see? So, so what happens is this, that we all want unconditional love. For example, don't you ever feel like, I want to be loved for myself. I want you to love me just the way I am. I don't want you to control me, I don't want you to fix me, I don't want you to make me this way or that way, just love me as I am. This is what everybody wants. This is called unconditional love. The only problem with that is that you're not willing to do that to somebody else. You're only willing to have it on your own terms. Love me, but you never think of loving somebody else unconditionally. Because we think there is separation. And because of this thinking of separation, because we don't know we are united, we are one, we create, I want you to listen to this, because this is the whole crux of the matter, this statement. Okay, it is this. We resist the very thing we want most, which is unconditional love. Okay? We resist the very thing we want most. So all emotional pain is going back to our childhood and become like a child, because there's only one ego. There aren't many egos. The ego is always the same. The ego is that part in you that resists the very thing you want most, which is your being. You see? But you want it on your own terms. You see? You want it personally because you don't understand that we are all one. So now this is where all the problems and suffering come in. We resist the very thing we want most. The one thing that is good for you, you'll always say, oh, well, maybe I'll do it tomorrow, or maybe I'll look at it, or there's always something going on. You always sabotage yourself. Eckhart Tolle in his book Power of Now called it pain body. The Course in Miracles called it unconscious guilt. In psychology they called it self-sabotage. But it all comes back to the same thing. You see, you are resisting the very thing you want most, which is your true self. Now, there are 3 different kinds of questions that people ask. First question is called physical questions. You believe the world is real. What is real is the invisible. It is spirit which is real. Everything came from spirit. Everything is an expression of spirit, but we like to, oh, this is real because I can feel it, you see? But we do not realize it's the spirit which brought everything into being. So the first questions, which is made up of the majority of people, are physical questions. And they develop a desire for the world. I want to be a success, I want to be important, I want to be somebody. Okay, there's nothing wrong with these things. I want to make lots of money, I want to be wealthy, I want to be powerful. There's nothing wrong. But you see, these values are not going to bring you what you want most, which is unconditional love, which is peace, which is happiness, which is fulfillment, spiritual fulfillment. So we go on for quite a while. And then we become seekers after a while. Gee, this is not working. Because in the beginning, you see, because you want in the world, you also blame the world. So you blame your parents for the way you've been brought up. You blame the government for what is happening to the country. You blame God for the feelings that you have. In other words, you blame out there. But after a while, you begin to wisen up. Maybe you study a little bit of psychology. And you come to the second level of questions. And this is when you go inside. So you say, oh, everything is within me. Everything that I feel is inside me. It's all in my head. It's all in my thoughts. So now, what happens is that you start blaming yourself. What is wrong with me? Why is this happening? Maybe I should be better. Maybe I should improve. Maybe I should study more. All the time getting away from being. Because being is not achieved. You are being now, this moment. So we miss it. Finally, usually the seeker who are going through thinking everything is within them, which is not. There is no within or without. There is just is. You understand that? Just is. Everything just is. Awareness, pure awareness. So when you begin to understand that everything is within and nothing is without, you create another type of conflict or separation that can last you for a whole lifetime. But then you begin to wisen up even more and you go to the third level of questions. And instead of asking why, which is always whining, because why is always personal, did you know that? I'm suffering. Why am I suffering? Because you want to justify it to yourself, that you are really suffering, there's something wrong, you see. But you can ask what instead of why. In the third question, you're a little wiser. So you ask, what is suffering? Ah, now we're moving into inquiry. Now we're beginning to look for it. But the problem with that is that when you ask what is suffering, you try to figure out what is suffering. And that's where we make the problem. We try to seek the answer with the intellect instead of the heart. Okay? And today we're going to use a method that is absolutely beautiful. And to do that. So this is called the inquiry path. Ramana Maharshi used to say, ask who am I? You see, whenever you are seeking, who is seeking? If you're suffering, who is suffering? In other words, go into the core of the thing itself to look at it. Because the moment you look at something, it disappears. Do you know that? Let's say you're thinking a thought right now. You're thinking a thought, right? And then all of a sudden, stop. Become conscious. Where is it? And there's nothing there. Are you understanding me? Most thoughts are unconscious. And so when we suffer and we make an emotion, a negative emotion real, we are slaves to that emotion. We are unconscious. We become victims. But the moment you become conscious, the moment you start looking directly, it disappears. And it disappears because it's never really been there, except going back to your past and making it real. But the past is not real. Why? Because the past is past. It is history. It is gone. It is now. Now is the only reality there is. Now is forever. So after we've done that inquiry, and after we are really getting a little brighter, we want some teachings that are very powerful. We want to go to the ultimate. We're not interested in mundane stuff like psychology, and I studied psychology. And you want something deeper and deeper. So maybe you go into Advaita Vedanta, which is non-duality. That is the highest teaching. Course in Miracles, which is the highest teaching, you know. Or lately we have a lot of people are studying quantum physics, which again is very high, very, very good. So as we go into the highest teaching, we begin to read a lot, listen to a lot of videos without listening to our heart, without truly resonating to what is being said. And so what is happening is it remains in our heads and we begin to think we know. And the moment you start to think you know, that's the time that you should really look at, because that's the time you really do not know. Because there's nothing to know. There is only compassion and forgiveness. That is the only truth that exists. Anything else that you learn, there is oneness, there are no others, there is separation, these are words. And these words mean nothing unless you have compassion and forgiveness in your heart. Let me give you something what you've heard of Kenneth Wapnick?
Yes.
Okay, now Kenneth Wapnick, I consider him one of the greatest spiritual teachers in the world today. He's a co-founder of A Course in Miracles. One time he was giving a talk to maybe 100 people, and he said, when you want to ask help, the last person you should go to is a Course in Miracles student. Because the first thing they'll give you is a lecture, never compassion. And it's so true. Why? Because you see, when we go from inquiry to the highest teaching, we begin to think we know. And you want people to know that you know, because you want yourself to know that you know, that they know that you know. Okay? This is how the game of the ego goes on. But there is nothing to know. There are no answers. There's only isness. There's only now. In other words, there's only compassion and forgiveness. These are the only truth there is. You never really learn anything. You awaken the heart. You see, not the intellect. The intellect can know everything, but it doesn't give it peace. I get so many emails every day. Bert, I know all that. But why don't I live the truth? Why haven't I found peace? You see? Because you think you know. And there's nothing to know. Nothing. Why? Because nothing is spirit. The invisible is the real knowledge. But that is in your heart. That is felt in your heart. So now we come to what can we do about it? What can we learn from this? Is there some system that we can follow so that we go right to the heart? And yes, there is. And that's what we're going to discuss today. There are 3 steps to follow this. 1, be very sincere and honest with the question that bothers you the most. Because everybody has a living question. Some people live and die never knowing what that living question is. But if you ask yourself, what is it that repeats often in my mind? What is it, the feeling that is with me most of the time? Maybe I'm not good enough. That's what I think to myself all the time. Maybe I think of myself as a victim. Maybe I think of myself as there's something wrong with me. You see, and so many on. So these are called living questions. So when you have the courage to ask a living question, and you put it down on paper, you actually put it down, okay? What you do is look at it and try to understand the question itself. You don't ask why, you ask what. And then you see that what you are asking is what you believe about yourself. You see? What you actually believe in your mind, what you have taken for granted. And then you might say, but if I ask myself to understand this question, aren't I reaching for an answer? If you do, then you're still stuck in your mind, in your intellect. No, don't reach for an answer. Have it as an intent to understand the question by asking what. But we'll put it to practical use now, okay? We'll try it out. After you do that, you might say, well, okay, now I put it to, how will I know the answer? How will I know what the solution is? It's simpler than you think. See, our nature is called awareness. Pure awareness. That is the nature of being. Therefore, pure awareness, and I don't want to go into the details of the two aspects of it because that's going to take too much time, but the aspects of pure awareness is that it's self-recognizing and self-organizing. We've discussed that, okay? We're aware of that. If you're, not aware, you can always listen to the previous videos on it. The beautiful thing about self-organizing is that the moment you say to yourself, I really don't understand this question, why I'm asking it. So therefore go and ask yourself, what is outstanding about it? What made me ask it? What is it in it? What did I need, to look at? And leave that as an intent, but don't reach an answer. And then you go to the second part. The second part is this. How would I, or what am I seeking through this question? Now you might say, but I'm not really seeking anything. Remember that a question means quest. It means you are asking, you are seeking. So how do you find out, not from the head, but from the heart, what it is you are seeking? And it's so simple. You know how? Don't ask what you are seeking. Ask, what do I prefer instead of this? So if you're suffering, you ask, what do I prefer to feel instead of suffering? Immediately you'll say, I'd rather have peace. I'd rather be happy. Because that's who you are. That is your being. The third part, you close your eyes, you focus on the third eye, you want peace. You take a deep breath, and be the peace you want. If you think it's too simple, if you feel that, my goodness, it cannot be that simple, it cannot be that, what are you doing? You're resisting the very thing you want most. We go back to ego. The ego is always there waiting for the slightest excuse for you not to do something simple. You see? So, okay, so now we've discussed, now we're going to go through the method, and I'd like you to participate in this because it's very beautiful. But first, the people who are watching the video, this is number 25. I'm going to finish here, and then the next video is going to be number 26, and you'll see the actual result. So for now, bye-bye, and watch for the next video, okay?